Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's your buddy Chewie coming at you. It is a late night session here. It is just past midnight. It is on a Wednesday evening, Wednesday into Thursday, so Thursday morning. Um, I'm not really sure why, but I just poured myself another drink. It's midnight. Everybody's in bed. Um, this ice will fall down here in a couple minutes. Um, let's see. I hope everybody's doing well. Um, as always, it's been a couple days since I've recorded. Um, things as always. Life is crazy. Um, I shaved, or at least most of it. I'm looking a little bit Amish. I'm sure some of the 406 North Lane boys will give me a hard time. Um, I didn't really shave on purpose. I typically will trim my beard once a week or so. And I got in the shower the other day, and I grabbed my trimmer and I took a swipe right here, and I quickly realized that the normal level 5 was on level 1. So I had gone in here, and then I had gone like one half, once one side of my mustache. So at that point, I was kind of pot committed, so to speak. Um, my wife does not like it. She has told me on numerous occasions that I need to shave. Um, I figure I'm at home in quarantine. I'll let it I'll let it grow for a week. It'll be fine. But let's see what else is going on. Um, I have a feeling this is just going to be kind of a mismatch tonight. Lots going on in my life. A lot of stress in my life. As I had mentioned, I'm an elected official, and I won't bore you with all the details. But suffice to say, there are some times um, when you feel like you're earning you're you're um, you're earning your position more than others, and this is one of those weeks. Um, we've got a particular issue that um, is not going to be solved quickly. It affects everybody in town, and anyways, it's just stressful. So um, let's see. I watched. If you're a WWE fan, if you haven't watched the new docu series documentary about the Undertaker on the WWE Network, you absolutely need to. It is amazing. I think there's 2 episodes out at this point. I've watched an episode and a half. Um, it's outstanding. It's behind the scenes of the Undertaker in his I think it's called the Last Ride, and it starts at WrestleMania 33, which is where Undertaker wrestled Roman Reigns, and that was supposed to be, or in theory, that was going to be his last WrestleMania match. Um, it is now 3 years later. He just recently wrestled at WrestleMania 36 against AJ Styles in what I thought was an amazing match. But I tell you, it's the first episode is all about that Mania match against Roman Reigns, and it follows him heading up to the match and that day, and kind of where his thought was and his head was, and it's really kind of sad because I think it's pretty clear in watching that episode that that was supposed to be his last match. That was supposed to be his farewell. And here we are 3 years later, and not only is he no longer just working one match a year, but he's not back by full time by any stretch. But it was just as I watched that, it struck me that it was just pretty sad because um, he was clearly ready to retire, um, and I'm not sure what changed his mind or what happened. I imagine some of that is gonna be revealed as we go through this documentary. But and some of it already has been. But it was sad. I mean, the Undertaker is my all-time favorite WWE character. Um, I would probably put him. I think it's the best character of all time. I think as an overall performer, I think he's probably in the top, probably the top 3 or 4 of all time. Um, let's see. Let's do that. Well, let's do a top 5 all around WWE or WWF performers. Um, so this is not just in ring, but it's the character, the in ring performer, and the kind of the total package. Shout out to Lex Luger, the total package. Spoiler alert: Lex Luger will not be on this list. Let's see, we got 5. I will go in no particular order, but Undertaker has got to be one of those 5. The character has persisted for 30 years, 30 plus years at this point. 30 years? A long time. He has reinvented himself on several occasions. He went, from the pure Undertaker where he wasn't talking. He had Paul Bearer as a manager, to the more demonic Undertaker. He's gone through the Underbiker phase. He's gone through the dead man phase. Um, and I guess now he's I don't know if he's back to Underbiker or if he is Mark Calloway as the Undertaker. Um, that dude is what, 300 pounds plus, 6'10", and well, he doesn't move like a cat. I mean, some of the shit that he does in the ring is just I mean, it's amazing. Um, so he absolutely gets one of those spots. Um, let's see. Number 4 for me, and again, I'm just gonna stick to WWF /E performers. So I'm not going to include. There's some people on that list that I think, if I would open it up to WCW and AEW and AWA and all that, this list might change a bit, but I suppose the good news is that almost everybody, um, of almost everybody that's anybody in the wrestling business that I guess would even be considered for this list has been in the WWE at some point. I mean, even a guy like Sting, who wouldn't be on my list, but up until several years ago had literally never stepped foot in the WWE, would now be eligible for this list. So we got here. I'll write them down here. So I got Taker. I got to put Ric Flair on that list. Ric Flair is a guy that probably is more known for his WCW and NWA times, but he certainly had a run in the WWF/E, that I have no problem putting him on this list. He's a 16-time world champion. To this day, you go to a sporting event, when we have sporting events, you go to a sporting event and you will hear the woo echo through the crowd, right? Everybody knows woo, whether they know professional wrestling or they even know if Ric Flair did it. They know woo. Might have been one of the best promos, certainly in the top couple in the history of the business. Could talk and talk and talk for days, and even though he probably, most definitely, I think, stayed around too long, you just cannot underestimate how good that guy was in the ring. If you haven't ever seen some old school Ric Flair, do yourself a favor, go to the network, go on YouTube, and find some old school Ric Flair matches, like against Harley Race, against Ricky Steamboat, where he would have hour-long matches with Rick Steamboat that were just, I mean, just some of the best matches ever. Ric Flair absolutely gets a spot on this list. And again, the list is overall performers. So not just ring, not just promo, but kind of overall. Let's see. So we got Taker, we got Ric Flair. Who else? I'm saving my last one. I know who is going to be my number one. I'm going to save him for the end. So that means I got two more spots that I gotta fill in. I think you got to go with Steve Austin. Stone Cold Steve Austin was the Attitude Era in the WWF, WWE. I mean that guy. I mean that guy redefined professional wrestling in the '90s. The feuds he had with Vince McMahon, the feuds he had with The Rock, the feuds he had with Bret Hart. I mean, God, the match that he had at WrestleMania 13 with Bret Hart, where they did a double switch and Bret Hart had him in the sharpshooter and he was bleeding and gushing and he refused to give up. And I mean that is an iconic match, and that made Austin. And then once you get into Austin 316, and the promos and the beer and the throwing the beer and the drink. I mean, Steve Austin was the total package, right? He was professional wrestling for a good chunk of time, and he was just, to me, he was kind of the epitome of what professional wrestling was, certainly in the 90s. And there's still a lot of wrestling fans today that will look back on the Attitude Era, and he's the one, he's the one that leads that charge. So you got to put Austin up there. This is hard. I'm going to stick with 5. There is just a gang of people that you could put on this list, and they're honorable mentions and those kind of things, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to stick with 5. It's my own rules. I'm going to stick to my own rules. Hulk Hogan, right? Hulk Hogan was not the best in-ring wrestler by any stretch of the imagination. But that guy, if it weren't for Hulk Hogan, we don't have professional wrestling today. We don't have the WWF today, I don't think. WWE. I don't think you have WrestleMania without Hulk Hogan. I don't think I think it's very fair to say that Vince McMahon is not a billionaire. The WWE is not a publicly traded company. All of those things are on the back of the Hulkster. You had rock and wrestling, you had WrestleMania, you had action figures, you had games, you had television shows, you had comic books. Hell, I think he had a cereal. And say your prayers, eat your vitamins, train. Hulkamania was a real thing. It was something that a 40-some-year-old guy like myself, that is professional wrestling. Hulk Hogan and the Hulkster brother transcended professional wrestling. It was not just professional wrestling. He was bigger than pro wrestling. And hell, the guy to this day still will show up every once in a while and still will pop a crowd. And hearing to this day, hearing Real American, hearing the first couple beats of that theme song will give me goosebumps. I don't know how you couldn't put Hulk Hogan on this list. And that's before he went to WCW and became the biggest heel in the history of the business with the NWO and that kind of stuff. So, what Hulk Hogan has meant to this business as an overall performer, I think is second to almost none. Um, I didn't really rank these lists, but um, yeah. So we've got Undertaker, Ric Flair, Stone Cold Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, and then the one for me that is the man is the Macho Man Randy Savage. Macho Man, I think he of these five, I think he's clearly the well, I don't know. I think he's I think he's probably the best in ring performer of all these guys. Maybe Ric Flair gives him a run for the money. Um, the promos are were second to none. When Macho Man got going, and oh yeah, dig it, and he had the hair and the just the beard and the sunglasses and the robes, and you've got Liz on his arm, and um, Macho Man was amazing. And if you watched the episode where I reviewed the wrestling challenge, it really reminded me how good Macho Man Randy Savage was in the ring. Um, he really did some, especially back when he was in that on the Intercontinental run, and he's wrestling against Steamboat. He had what many consider, and I think I probably consider the best WrestleMania match in history at WrestleMania 3 for the Intercontinental title, and he lost that match. But I mean, that dude could just plain flat out go. Um, and and then when you factor in the the wardrobe and the entrance music and Liz and the robes and the talking and the in-ring stuff, Macho Man is he's my number one of all time. Randy Savage, um, Randy Savage is the guy. I think he's. I don't know that I could. I always tell people the Undertaker is my all-time favorite. I don't know, man. I might have to say that's actually the Macho Man. Ironically enough, I was just going through my website the other day, and I realized that I went back through some old posts. I'm gonna pull it up here real quick. And Randy Savage passed away um, on May the 20th. So he passed away on May the 20th, 2011. So it was today, right? Um, or at least the day I started recording this episode. Um, he passed away on May the 20th, and that one really, there are so many wrestlers that have passed away um, in relatively recent times. Um, that one hurt. Randy Savage was 58 years old when he passed away, um, and I just think he would, I would imagine he would still be involved in the wrestling business today, were he still alive, right? And and we have just really missed out on just an incredible talent on the Macho Man. So, anyways, I guess that's my list: The Undertaker, Ric Flair, Steve Austin, Hulk Hogan, and Macho Man Randy Savage. That would be kind of my list of the top 5 overall WWF/E performers of all time. So I wasn't quite sure what I was going to talk about tonight, but I've rambled on now for about 20 minutes. So there you go. That's my list. That's tonight's episode, and I will talk to you guys soon. Have a good one.